In the best sense of the word, Neil was my best friend. He was an artist that had a disability, and both the art that he created and what he struggled with over his life was paramount. I met him when I was doing a talk at Cal. Neil was in a wheelchair, his body twisted around because of his dystonia. At the end of the talk, he raised his hand. This was the first time I had heard him speak, and it took him a lot longer to because of his condition. And in front of the crowd, he told me he loved me. That was the first thing he ever said to me. Afterward, a few of us got a burger, and a guy about my age told me who Neil was, the short version. This is Neil Marcus. He's a performer. His show Storm Reading went all over the world. He's a major figure in disability around the country. I didn't know anything about Storm Reading or Neil, only that he would gaze into my eyes and smile, attempting to say a few poignant words. I felt joy every time I saw Neil after that, and we became fast friends. I would visit him in his place in Berkeley. He would always ask how I was doing, stopping to gaze into my eyes, listening with his entire being. I felt like I could be myself with Neil, and he included me in birthdays, holidays, family gatherings, and performances. There was a moment when we performed together. I was doing my solo show at the Marsh, Madhouse Rhythm, which at that time had a great amount of improvisation. During the show, I picked him out of his wheelchair and brought him on stage and started to roll around on the ground like we always used to, like puppies at play. The audience was beyond stunned. For one, they didn't know we were friends, and it went beyond their ability to comprehend a usual performance. Along with being a performer with Neil, I also cared for him as his Saturday night special, his once-a-week overnight caretaker. It was around that time that Neil would welcome me into his home as a place to crash when I didn't have anywhere else to go. Neil was the first person to tell me I should do a book. I showed him my CDs and DVDs, and Neil persuaded me to write my first book, still on its way. He always asked about how my writing was going. He was a performer, poet, playwright, dancer, and activist who always kept writing and creating with several books of his own. When Neil's roommate, Patrick, called me to tell me that Neil had passed, he said something before he hung up the phone that stayed with me. He said, "I think we'll see him again." I like to think that's true. I feel blessed to have been able to share a good 10 years with Neil as his friend, fellow performer, and appreciator of the finer things like burgers, music, and long stares across the bay from his balcony. Bless you, Neil Marcus, for spreading your light and showing me how to live as an artist with disability in the most human way possible.